In the heart of Russia's defense industry, the production lines for the T-90M Proriev main battle tank are still running at full capacity. Despite facing nearly 4 years of international sanctions and a costly war in Ukraine, Moscow continues to invest heavily in armored warfare. Just before New Year 2026, state manufacturer Uralvagonzavod announced the delivery of yet another batch of T-90Ms to the Russian armed forces. Footage aired on Russian television showed the tanks rolling off the factory floor and heading to the front by rail. It's a clear sign that Russia's wartime economy, though isolated, remains capable of sustaining high-end weapons manufacturing. In this video, we take you inside the T-90M's production story, examining how these advanced tanks are built, what makes them different from earlier models, and why their continued deployment matters on the modern battlefield. Despite the economic sanctions imposed by the United States and European countries, Russia continues to produce and deliver the T-90M Proriev, its most advanced main battle tank currently fielded. On January 4, 2026, Uralvagonzavod released footage showing a batch of T-90Ms leaving the Nizhny Tagil plant and being loaded onto flatbed railcars for shipment to operational units. Russian media described the shipment as the final batch intended to fulfill the 2025 state order dispatched on January 1st, which suggests a production and delivery cycle completed within 12 months despite the restrictions. This continuity is linked to a wartime economy that treats attrition and replenishment as parallel requirements. Sanctions complicate access to certain electronics, optics, and industrial equipment, but they have not halted the production line. In practice, Russia has reorganized its industrial priorities around programs considered essential, and the T-90M has become a central element of that core effort because it combines battlefield-relevant upgrades, feasible industrial scaling, and rapid incorporation of lessons from the front. The T-90M is not a minor variant but a deep modernization designed to improve lethality, situational awareness, and survivability. Its firepower is based on a 125mm smoothbore gun paired with an autoloader, which helps maintain a stable rate of fire while keeping the crew's size down. In combat where detection often precedes destruction, the sensor-to-shooter chain can matter as much as caliber. The T-90M integrates updated optics and observation systems, including a panoramic thermal sight for the commander to improve target search, identification, and coordination in combined arms operations. Digital integration via the Kalina suite is also intended to facilitate information sharing and synchronization with infantry and supporting assets. The T-90M uses a V92 S2F diesel engine rated at 1,130 horsepower, intended to preserve acceleration and rapid repositioning despite added mass from supplementary armor and protection kits. This mobility margin is not optional. On a battlefield saturated with drones and artillery, time spent exposed increases risk. The ability to move quickly, change axis, and exit a threatened area improves survival prospects even before considering armor performance. Protection is one of the T-90M's most visible features. The tank combines reinforced base armor with relict explosive reactive armor (ERA) intended to disrupt shape charge effects and strengthen coverage over exposed areas. This configuration nonetheless faces a persistent reality. Ukraine has expanded the use of top attack threats, including anti-tank guided missiles (ATGM) in top attack modes, loitering munitions, and FPV drones. The current battlefield often penalizes errors in signature management, movement patterns, and tempo more than armor design choices alone. Since 2023, drone-focused modifications have become increasingly common. Slat and cage structures, turret top screens, and additional protective elements intended to disrupt an FPV drone's approach or reduce the effectiveness of a plunging strike. The aim is not to make the tank immune. It is to complicate the attacker's engagement geometry, force less favorable angles, create standoff distance between the charge and the vehicle's surface, and gain seconds to maneuver. In a conflict where drone teams operate in rapid cycles, those seconds can separate a disabled vehicle from one that disengages. Production volumes are therefore a key issue, and several open-source estimates converge on a ramp-up trajectory. A June report outlines a progressive increase, roughly 60 to 70 T-90Ms produced in 2022, then 140 to 180 in 2023, and annual output potentially approaching 250 to 300 in 2024. The same report highlights an important point. According to its analysis, the T-90Ms produced at the time of the study would be newly built vehicles, and the availability of new hulls would not be the main limiting factor. In other words, Russia would not be relying only on modernizing existing platforms. It would retain a meaningful capacity to build new tanks, which affects how industrial resilience is assessed. These figures are difficult to verify independently down to individual vehicles, but the direction matters. Russia is seeking to offset losses and rebuild armored mass while keeping a modern segment able to face advanced threats. At the same time, the impact of sanctions has not disappeared, it has shifted. Constraints on specific components can lead to substitutions, indirect procurement routes, or trade-offs in certain subsystems. From Moscow's perspective, the priority is to sustain a flow of deliveries and to incorporate frontline feedback into the configuration of successive production batches. The T-90M thus becomes a rapid learning program. Each wave of drones, each new munition type, and each change in adversary tactics pushes further adaptation. Additional protection against FPV drones, evolving turret top shielding, more systematic integration of jamming measures, and combined approaches that link physical protection with electronic warfare reflect a survival logic in a saturated environment. The tank is no longer only a weapons platform. It is a node within an ecosystem of sensors, communications, and countermeasures where small gaps, thermal visibility, lack of jamming support, or prolonged immobility can trigger a near-immediate strike. In the background, the early 2026 deliveries indicate that sanctions have not stopped production but have driven adaptation. Component substitution where feasible, prioritization of programs deemed vital, and industrial investment to sustain around-the-clock output are all intended to preserve the essentials, delivering modern tanks in volume, fast enough and long enough to support the war effort. If Russia maintains this pace while improving survivability against drones, it extends its ability to sustain mechanized operations in contested areas. If industrial wear, shortages of critical inputs, or pressure on the production base durably reduce output, the T-90M may remain a capable system, but in numbers too limited to influence the balance at the strategic level.